Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through some pretty fascinating research here, trying to pull out the knowledge nuggets you can actually use. Have you ever, crammed for a big test, totally nailed it,
Uh,
and then a week later, poof, it's mostly gone?
Oh, definitely. Or you sit through this amazing talk, right? Really compelling ideas,
Yeah,
but then trying to actually use those ideas later. That's where it gets tricky.
exactly. So what if? What if a lot of what we call learning isn't really the best way our brains are wired to learn?
hmm
Today, we're diving into a really revolutionary concept, action-based learnography.
And it's more than just a teaching technique, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It sounds like a whole paradigm shift. The idea is it could, literally rewire your brain for deeper, more lasting knowledge transfer.
Right. And we're drawing heavily here from the work of Shiva Narayan Takshila Page. Really insightful stuff exploring how purposeful actions, doing things, unlocks real understanding and retention.
Okay, so our mission today, let's cut through the academic jargon.
Yeah, let's get to the core of it.
We want to deliver the most impactful insights from this research. So you should walk away with a fresh perspective on how your own brain works, maybe what real knowledge transfer looks like.
And maybe some surprising facts about how adaptable your brain actually is.
Totally. Get ready to maybe rethink how you learn forever.
Okay, let's jump right in then. The absolute core idea of learnography.
Hmm.
It seems simple, but also, well, pretty profound.
Mm-hmm.
Learning happens best through doing, through actions, not just passively taking stuff in.
It really does feel counterintuitive, doesn't it, compared to how most of us went through school?
Yeah, sitting in rows listening.
Exactly. And that's where the aha moment really lies. What's so compelling is that this isn't just someone's pet theory. It's grounded in actual neuroscience.
Okay.
The source material is pretty clear that traditional teaching, lots of talking from the front, passive listening, it often misses the mark on how the brain really cements knowledge most effectively.
And the science says that's through action. Action is the key driver. Which brings us to learnography itself. You could think of it as a whole system, really, where learning is specifically designed around action.
Designed around action.
Yeah, it directly pushes knowledge transfer and what the research calls brain page development.
Brain page development. Okay.
Yeah, so imagine your brain isn't just like a filing cabinet for facts. It's more like a workshop
Workshop. I like that.
where you're constantly building, refining these mental structures.
Okay, building structures. So these actions, are we talking about just, drilling things, repeating stuff over and over, or is it more involved?
Oh, much more involved. That's a key insight. These motor learning actions, they're way beyond just mechanical repetition. The research actually calls them the architects of brain rewiring.
Architects of brain rewiring.
Yeah.
Wow.
So picture this. When you actually do a task, maybe physically handle objects related to it, or write out an idea, or even just visualize a complex process, or you're actively solving a problem related to it. You're not just using the knowledge you have. You're actively constructing it, sculpting it inside your brain.
So each action is like laying a brick.
Exactly. Laying a brick in a neural pathway, making it stronger, clearer, more defined.
That's a really powerful image. But, okay, the nitty-gritty, how does this rewiring actually work? What's physically happening in our heads when we, do something that changes our brain?
Right. This is where it gets super interesting. It connects directly to neuroplasticity.
Ah, neuroplasticity, the brain changing itself.
Precisely. We know the brain isn't fixed, it's not static, it's incredibly dynamic, constantly adapting, remodeling itself based on experience.
Yeah.
Learnography basically harnesses this natural ability.
Okay.
Through purposeful activity, your brain is literally, physically reorganizing its circuits.
And it's specific parts of the brain doing this.
Yes, absolutely. It's not just some vague general thing. Specific brain regions are heavily involved. You've got the hippocampus. Think of that as your memory librarian. Crucial for forming those new explicit memories. The what?
Right, the facts and figures.
Then there's the basal ganglia.
Yeah.
That's more like your habit trainer. It helps consolidate actions into smooth, almost automatic skills.
Okay, habits and skills.
The cerebellum, that's like your precision engineer. It fine-tunes the timing and accuracy of movements and even thoughts.
Precision?
And then those prefrontal parietal circuits, they're kind of the executive command center, managing task control, planning, the higher level thinking.
So all these parts work together when we learn through action.
Exactly. They're working in concert, not just storing data, but actively building these integrated knowledge structures.
So when we're doing these actions, these brain areas light up, they work together, and they create something. What did you call that structure again?
Right. They build what the research calls brainpage modules.
Brain page modules.
Think of them as these really well-organized, durable knowledge structures. They hold both the explicit knowledge, the facts you can state, and also the tacit motor memory. That's the how-to knowledge, the skill you can demonstrate, but maybe can't fully explain in words.
Ah, like riding a bike.
Exactly like riding a bike.
Yeah.
These modules are like the secret sauce. They allow for really fast retrieval of information, precise execution of tasks. And here's the critical part: flexibly applying that knowledge in new situations.
So it's not just remembering, it's doing and adapting.
Precisely. You're not just remembering, you're doing. The research also mentioned something called the cyclizide process.
Cyclizide. Sounds technical.
It sounds a bit complex, but the core idea is simple. It's just how repeated purposeful actions keep stimulating and strengthening those neural pathways we talked about.
Okay.
Think about forging a path in a forest. The more you walk it, the clearer and more defined it becomes, right?
It gets easier to follow.
That's basically what's happening in your brain with this process. It leads to really long-lasting memory circuits, and it boosts your brain's adaptability, fluency, precision. Makes you better at solving problems with that knowledge. It really becomes yours.
That forest path analogy really helps visualize the cyclizide process. Okay, so our brains are literally building these structures like architects. Now, to really get this, we need to unpack some of this unique terminology. We mentioned brain page module.
They're durable knowledge structures built by action.
Right. What about object language? That sounds really interesting.
It is, because object language is a major shift from how we usually share information. Instead of just relying on, spoken explanations or dense text.
Like a typical lecture textbook.
Exactly. Object language uses things like object-based representations, visual models, diagrams, and symbolic actions.
Okay, can you give a concrete example? Like if I was learning about, I don't know, how an engine works, what would object language look like?
Good example.
Yeah.
So instead of just reading a description, you might interact with a 3D model of the engine, maybe even a simplified physical one. You could trace the flow of fuel and air on a diagram, or use hand gestures to show how pistons move.
Ah, so you're interacting with it physically or visually.
Precisely. You're engaging multiple senses and actions. And the benefit is huge. Object language seems to really boost comprehension and retention. It also helps with problem solving because it cuts down on cognitive overload.
Cognitive overload, meaning less mental juggling of abstract words.
You're building a more direct mental model, not just translating words in your head.
That makes a ton of sense, especially thinking about how quickly pure verbal instructions can just evaporate. You're talking about making knowledge stick in a way that works with our brain's natural processes. Okay, and then there's brain page hours? BPH. This sounds like measurement.
It is, yeah, and it's potentially a really powerful metric. Brain page hours, or BPH, it tries to quantify actual knowledge transfer and how proficient a learner is becoming.
So not just time spent listening.
Exactly. It's a framework to measure the time learners spend actively building and strengthening their knowledge transfer, working on those brain page modules. So it shifts the focus from just time on tasks or seat time
Right.
to measuring the real active work the brain is doing. Tracking that architectural progress, if you will.
That feels like a critical difference, measuring the doing and the learning, not just the sitting.
Okay, so beyond these core ideas, the study talks about 7 dimensions of knowledge transfer. What are these and how do they fit in?
Right, these dimensions are described as like essential pillars for building those solid knowledge structures. They ensure you're getting a really comprehensive understanding. They basically provide a structured map for how actions lead to deep integrated learning.
Okay, so they guide the process. Can you give us a couple of examples?
Sure. Well, one is called hippocampus, which is kind of a cool name.
Yeah.
It's not just about recalling facts, but learning how to navigate complex information effectively. Like building a mental map of a topic, going beyond just memorizing isolated bits.
Yeah.
Navigating knowledge. Okay.
Then there's module builder, which is pretty straightforward.
What?
It's the actual active process of constructing and consolidating those brain page modules we keep talking about.
Right, the building blocks.
And another one that's really intriguing is dark knowledge.
Dark knowledge. Sounds mysterious.
A little. It refers to exploring those deeper, often unspoken connections, the kind of implicit understanding you gain through experience, through doing, rather than just being told explicitly. It's like the intuition that develops.
Oh, okay. The stuff you know but can't easily explain how you know it.
Exactly. So these dimensions, they're not just abstract ideas. They provide a practical framework for applying this action-based approach. It's about building knowledge that's robust, adaptable, and truly understood.
This is all incredibly compelling, but, for most of us, our own learning experiences were, well, pretty passive. Lots of sitting, listening, taking notes.
The talking school model, as the research calls it.
Right. So how does this action-based approach really stack up against those traditional methods? Is it actually better?
Well, the research draws a pretty clear line in the sand. It contrasts those talking schools, passive listening, memorization lectures, with what it calls brainpage schools, which are all about active engagement, action-based learning.
And the verdict?
The findings strongly favor the action-based brainpage approach. Learners who are actively building these modules show stronger memory consolidation. They recall information faster and more reliably.
Okay, better memory. What else?
They also tend to develop higher-order thinking skills more effectively. Transferring knowledge to new situations or different subjects becomes significantly easier.
So it's more flexible knowledge.
Exactly. And beyond just test scores, this approach seems to really nurture learner autonomy, creativity, and it makes collaborative learning much more genuine and effective.
You mentioned something earlier, transforming learners into small teachers. I find that idea really interesting.
Yeah, that's a really core part of the vision. Small teachers are students who aren't just learning independently, but who become capable of actually transferring their knowledge effectively to others.
Teaching to learn.
Precisely. They become model learners themselves and potentially lifelong innovators. Just imagine a classroom where students are actively explaining concepts, demonstrating skills, teaching each other. That process itself forces them to solidify their own understanding in really powerful ways.
Okay, so the implications here seem huge. Not just for schools, right?
Absolutely. The implications are vast. For education, it's really a call for significant educational reform. A fundamental shift away from teacher-centered lectures towards truly learner-centered, active environments.
And bringing the brain science in.
Definitely. It means we need to actively integrate neuroscience in practice, understanding the roles of the hippocampus, basal ganglia, cerebellum, those prefrontal circuits. That knowledge needs to directly inform how we design learning experiences.
What about textbooks and materials?
Well, curriculum design needs a rethink. Structuring materials, they call them transfer books, around object language, around problem solving, not just lists of facts to memorize.
And testing. Exams.
Assessment has to evolve too. Moving beyond just recalling facts on a test, we need more performance-based assessments, maybe tracking those brain page hours, things that measure if you can actually apply the knowledge.
So it's measuring what you can do.
Yes, and it changes the roles too. Teachers become less like lecturers and more like moderators of knowledge transfer, guiding students who are empowering each other as these small teachers.
And what about skills?
It puts a huge emphasis on skill development for the modern world. Right. Problem solving, creativity, real teamwork, adaptability, the stuff you gain by doing.
And maybe motivation. Does it touch on that?
Absolutely. The focus on action, on achieving tangible things, seems to significantly boost motivation and even mental health. Learners feel more engaged, less anxious, and have a greater sense of ownership over their learning.
It really sounds like it could reshape so much classrooms, workplace training, even just how we learn new hobbies. What's the biggest barrier, though? If the science is pointing this way, why isn't everyone doing it?
That's a great question. I think, honestly, one of the biggest hurdles is just inertia. Institutional habit and individual habit, too.
We're used to the old way.
We're so conditioned by the talking school model. Shifting to an active, action-based approach takes real conscious effort. It means redesigning classrooms, retraining educators, rethinking what we even count as progress.
It's a big shift.
It is.
Yeah.
But the research makes a strong case that this isn't just, another option. It's presented as a necessary evolution, really, to align how we teach with how our brains are actually wired to learn best.
Unnecessary evolution.
Yeah.
That's a powerful way to put it. Okay, so I'll try and wrap this up. The core message seems crystal clear. Learning isn't passive. It's an active construction job. It's about brain rewiring through doing purposeful things, building those brain page modules, not just soaking up information like a sponge.
Exactly. This neuroscience-backed model, Learnography, it offers a path towards real understanding, knowledge that sticks, and the adaptability we need. The research really hammers home. Actions are the true architects of brain rewiring.
It's about building that strong foundation for learning throughout life.
Building a dynamic foundation, yeah, for continuous learning and innovation.
Okay, so that leads us to our final provocative thought for you, our listener. This research, it puts out a clear call to action for educators, for policymakers, but let's bring it down to the personal level. How might you start acting like a small teacher in your own learning? How could you actively start building your own brain page modules?
Think about when you encounter new information. Are you mostly listening passively, or are you actively engaging with it somehow?
What's one small purposeful action you could take, maybe even today, to really solidify something you learned recently?
Did you try explaining it out loud,
Hmm?
even just to yourself, or maybe visualize it differently? Sketch it out.
Write down the core ideas in your own words, not just copy notes.
Yeah. This study really urges us to experiment with things like object language, maybe even think about our brain page hours, the active learning time. How can we shift from just being passive receivers to becoming active, empowered builders of our own knowledge? Exactly. Something to think about.